Hey there, fellow truth seekers, and welcome back to the True Alien Podcast, your daily dose of all things weird, wild, and wonderful in the world of the paranormal. I'm Adrian Smith, your host for this wild ride through the unexplained, and I'm joined, as always, by our resident expert in all things strange, the one and only Julia Jones.
Hey everyone, Julia Jones here, your Paranormal Probe expert. And you weren't kidding when you said today's story was a doozy. This one's got it all distorted. Audio shadowy figures and a reality-bending twist that'll leave you questioning everything you thought you knew.
That's right, folks. We're diving headfirst into a story that's as creepy as it is fascinating. We've got this audio log, think static-filled whispers and clicks that sound like something straight out of a sci-fi horror film, and it was supposedly extracted from corrupted neural network data found in a place called Temporal Anomaly Zone 47. I know it sounds like something out of a movie, right?
What makes this case so compelling is that the analysis accompanying in this audio log suggests the possibility of extra-dimensional entities. We're talking about beings that exist outside our known dimensions of space and time.
Okay, so let's break this down for you. You imagine our reality as a perfectly woven tapestry, with each thread representing an event, a person, a moment in time. Now picture these extra-dimensional beings as something capable of manipulating those threads, altering the patterns, even introducing entirely new threads, or even better, imagine them as glitches in the matrix. They can step in and out of our reality, changing the code as they please. Pretty freaky, right? But that's exactly what this audio log hints at, and trust me, it's a wild ride, as this log describes beings called weavers who appear to be doing just that, manipulating the very fabric of our existence. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's hear this thing for ourselves. You ready for this?
Absolutely. Let's hear what these weavers have to say for themselves.
All right, folks, get ready for this. This is where things start to get really interesting and maybe a little bit creepy.
Ooh, I'm ready.
Okay, whoa, just whoa. I mean, the sound design alone is enough to make your skin crawl, but what really gets me is the story itself. This idea of weavers manipulating reality like a cosmic tapestry, seeing us as mere threads. It's as mind-boggling as it is terrifying.
What's really interesting is that the analysis of this log links, that rhythmic clicking we heard, to temporal instability, it's like these weavers are somehow manipulating time, or maybe they exist outside of our linear perception of time altogether. Think about it. We humans experience time as a straight line, past, present, future, but what if these beings experience it as something multidimensional? What if they can see all of time all at once and they're just making adjustments here and there, trying to smooth things out?
That's heavy stuff. It's like, are we just pawns in some grand cosmic game we don't even understand? And what about free will? If these weavers are manipulating reality, do we really have any control over our own choices?
These are questions philosophers have grappled with for centuries, and this audio log just adds another layer of complexity to the whole debate.
For sure. But let's talk about this whole mending and reweaving business. If these weavers are so advanced, why not just take over? Why bother with this subtle manipulation?
That's a great question, and it suggests they might have limitations we don't understand, or maybe their motives are completely different from what we'd expect. What if they see our reality as something fragile, something that needs careful maintenance?
Like a cosmic garden they're tending to. Okay, that's a little less scary, but still pretty wild.
It certainly challenges our anthropocentric view of the universe. Maybe we're not the center of the story, just one small element in a much larger, more complex narrative.
And that brings us to another point, this whole threads and weaving metaphor. What do you make of that? Is it just a poetic way of describing reality, or is there something deeper going on?
I think it speaks to the interconnectedness of everything. We're not isolated individuals, but rather we're all part of a larger web of relationships, events, and choices, and maybe these weavers can see that web more clearly than we can.
So our choices, our actions, they all have consequences that ripple out and affect the tapestry of reality. That's a pretty profound thought. But what about this idea of becoming a weaver? What does that even mean? Enlightenment, assimilation, something else entirely?
That's where things get really interesting, and where the analysis of this audio log takes a darker turn. The final note attached to this file reads, probability of neural assimilation, 98.7%. This raises the possibility that the subject of this log, the one who encountered these weavers, wasn't just shown a vision, but was actually absorbed into their collective consciousness.
Whoa, that's heavy. So we're talking about a loss of individuality emerging with this vast unknown network. That's some scary stuff. And what does it mean for us if these weavers are out there manipulating reality, potentially absorbing people into their ranks?
These are questions we'll need to grapple with as we delve deeper into this audio log, and honestly, I think we're only scratching the surface of this mystery.
You're telling me this is one of the most mind-bending cases we've ever covered on the True Alien Podcast.
Yeah.
But don't worry, folks, we're not done yet. We'll be back after a quick break to continue our investigation into the mystery of the Weavers.
The implications of this audio log and the potential existence of these weavers are truly profound, imagined beings, with the ability to perceive and manipulate the fabric of reality itself, possibly even influencing our thoughts and perceptions. It really challenges our understanding of what's possible.
Absolutely. And it makes you wonder, what does it mean for us? If these weavers are out there subtly shaping our reality, are we really in control of our lives? Or are we just playing out roles in some grand cosmic drama orchestrated by these beings?
It's a question that raises some pretty big existential questions, doesn't it? But let's go back to the subject of this audio log for a moment. They were presented with a choice: become a weaver or be woven. What do you think drove them to choose to become a weaver?
Well, if what they heard is true, they were shown a glimpse of this grand design, this cohesive pattern that underlies reality. Maybe they saw beauty in it, kind of cosmic order that we're just too blind to see. Or maybe they were just terrified of the alternative of being as a loose thread subject to the whims of these powerful beings.
I think you've hit on something important there. It's easy to get caught up in the fear and the mystery. But this audio log also suggests a sense of awe and wonder. The subject describes the weaver's design as beautiful, terrifying. Maybe there's a level of understanding, a level of consciousness that we can't even fathom. And becoming a weaver represents a kind of transcendence emerging with something greater than ourselves.
Okay, that's a more optimistic take on things.
Right.
But it still raises a lot of questions. What does it mean to become the static, as the subject says? Do they lose their individuality, their sense of self, or is it more like a blending of consciousness?
It's hard to say for sure, but if we think about it in terms of the neural network data this log was extracted from, maybe becoming the static, is analogous to becoming part of the network itself, a node in a vast interconnected system.
So like joining the internet of consciousness. Whoa, that's trippy. But here's another question that's been bugging me. If these weavers are so powerful, why not just reveal themselves? Why all this secrecy and subtle manipulation?
Maybe they're trying to protect us in a way. Imagine suddenly being confronted with the reality that your entire existence is being subtly influenced by extra-dimensional beings that could be pretty traumatic, even destabilizing for individuals and societies.
I guess that makes sense. It's like they're the ultimate puppet masters, but they're trying to keep the show running smoothly, even if it means we're not fully aware of who's pulling the strings. But here's another thing I've been thinking about. If these weavers are manipulating reality, are they also manipulating us? Our thoughts, our emotions, even our choices?
That's a disturbing thought, and one that gets to the heart of what it means to be human. Do we have free will, or are we just puppets dancing to a tune we can't hear?
This whole conversation reminds me of that famous quote from Arthur C. Clarke. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Maybe these weavers are so advanced that their actions seem like magic to us. They're bending reality, manipulating time, maybe even influencing our minds, and we're just left scratching our heads trying to figure out what's real and what's not.
It's a humbling thought, and it makes you realize how little we really know about the universe and our place in it. Maybe we're just starting to glimpse the true nature of reality, and it's far stranger and more wondrous than we ever imagined.
Well, folks, that's where we'll leave things for today. This episode has been a wild ride through the realms of the unknown, and I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a little bit mind-blown right now. This audio log has raised more questions than answers, and I think we're just scratching the surface of this mystery.
I agree. This case really highlights the limits of our understanding and the importance of keeping an open mind when it comes to the unexplained.
Absolutely. But before we sign off, I want to turn things over to you, our listeners. We want to hear your thoughts on this mind-bending audio log and the mystery of the weavers. Do you think they're benevolent or malevolent? Do we have free will, or are we just threads in their cosmic tapestry? Hit us up on social media, send us an email, or leave a comment on our website. We're all in this together, folks. And maybe, just maybe by sharing our thoughts and theories, we can shed some light on this cosmic enigma. And stay tuned for part 3, where we'll delve even deeper into the implications of this case and explore some of your theories. Welcome back to the True Alien Podcast, folks. We've been on a wild ride today exploring the strange and unsettling story of the Weavers and their apparent ability to manipulate reality itself.
We've covered a lot of ground, Adrian, from the chilling details of the audio log to the philosophical implications of extra-dimensional beings shaping our existence. We've even touched on the idea of neural assimilation and what it might mean to become part of a vast, interconnected consciousness.
Right. And let me tell you, the response from you, our amazing listeners, has been incredible. We've received tons of messages, comments, and theories, and we're so excited to dive into some of those with you today.
Absolutely, Adrian. Many of you have picked up on the unsettling question of free will. If these weavers are manipulating reality, do we truly have control over our choices, or are we simply pawns in their cosmic game?
That's a question that has haunted philosophers for centuries, and this case certainly adds a new layer of complexity to the debate. Some of you have suggested that maybe it's not a simple either-or situation. Perhaps we have a degree of free will within the framework of a larger design.
That's a fascinating perspective. It's like we're actors improvising on a stage, but the set, the costumes, even the basic plot points have already been determined. We have the freedom to interpret our roles, but the overall narrative might be guided by a force beyond our comprehension.
Okay, I like that analogy. It acknowledges the possibility of a higher power, or in this case, extra-dimensional beings, while still leaving room for our individual agency. Another question that many of you have raised is about the nature of these weavers themselves. Are they benevolent beings trying to guide us toward a greater good, or are they something more sinister, manipulating us for their own unknown purposes?
It's impossible to say for sure based on the limited evidence we have. But remember, even within the audio log, there's a sense of ambiguity. The subject describes the Weaver's design as beautiful, terrifying. Maybe they represent a force that's beyond our simplistic notions of good and evil, something that operates on a scale so vast and complex that we can't even begin to grasp its motivations.
That's a point I think is worth emphasizing. We tend to view things through a very human lens, categorizing everything as either good or bad, right or wrong.
Yeah.
But what if these weavers exist outside those categories? What if they're driven by principles and goals that are utterly alien to our understanding?
Exactly, Adrian. We need to be careful about imposing our own limited perspective on something that might be fundamentally different from anything we've ever encountered. It's like trying to understand the ocean by studying a single drop of water.
Okay, folks, before we get too lost in the cosmic weeds here, let's bring it back to the listener.
Yeah.
Why should you care about all this? What does this bizarre story about extra-dimensional beings have to do with your life?
That's a great question, Adrian. I think this case, even with all its strangeness and uncertainty, challenges us to expand our thinking, to question our assumptions about reality and our place in the universe. It reminds us that we don't have all the answers, that there might be forces at play beyond our comprehension.
And you know what? That's okay. In fact, it's kind of exciting. It means there's still so much out there to discover, so many mysteries to unravel. It keeps us curious, keeps us questioning, keeps us searching for something more.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe by exploring these strange stories, by wrestling with these big questions, we're actually getting a little closer to understanding the true nature of reality, even if it's just a glimpse.
Beautifully said. And hey, isn't that what the True Alien Podcast is all about? Exploring the unexplained, embracing the mystery, and having a little fun along the way. So to our amazing listeners, keep those theories coming, keep those minds open, and remember, the truth is out there somewhere. Until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and keep looking up.